So, Joe, news that didn't really get super noticed because of the coronavirus, but really no news other than coronavirus is getting noticed. The president fired Intelligence Community Inspector General Michael Atkinson on Friday. He will leave his job technically in 30 days, but he was placed on administrative leave effective immediately. Why now?
Because it was time. The evidence has been gathered against Michael Atkinson, and here it is. Michael Atkinson was fired not just because of the way he corruptly influenced the Office of Inspector General for the intelligence community in his handling of the whistleblower Eric Ciaramella, who was not a whistleblower, did not have an intel matter to complain about, and who actually was allowed to give hearsay evidence because of Michael Atkinson's changing of the rules. Remember, Michael Atkinson testified before the Schiff impeachment committee. His transcript of his testimony has never been released. Ask yourself why. But here's the most important part of Michael Atkinson besides that. You will recall that this week the Inspector General issued a scathing report. He stopped his full review of FISA applications to issue an interim report where he found almost 100% of all cases that the Bureau had done did not have what's called a Woods file. Inside the Department of Justice, there is supposed to be what's called an accuracy review for all of those applications. Guess who was leading up those reviews in 42 of those cases? Michael Atkinson. And in the cases in which he reviewed, 39 of 42 failed all tests. That was a 93% failure rating for Michael Atkinson. And remember, the Office of Legal Counsel also excoriated him, Michael Atkinson, for his legal analysis on why he was required to take Eric Ciaramella's complaint to the Hill. In short, Michael Atkinson was an incompetent. He was politically corrupt. He was part of the coup d'etat, and he should have been fired. And then last night he issues a smarmy, preening, sanctimonious statement about how grand it was to be an inspector general and everybody needs to support them. And by the way, Michael Horowitz, issued a statement praising Mr. Atkinson after he had crushed Mr. Atkinson earlier in the week. Go figure.
Okay, interesting. So let me just double back on a point you just made, which is the FISA applications. They are supposed to be reviewed by Atkinson, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, not the DOJ IJ?
No. He did that job while he was acting Deputy Assistant Attorney General under Mary McCord, and he did it while he was counsel for the Division for Accuracy Reviews for the FISA court. Okay. He was a total failure.
Okay, I'm following with you now. And then on the issue of it not being appropriate to file a whistleblower complaint for a variety of reasons, you mentioned Eric Ciaramella not being a direct witness. Those rules were changed by Atkinson. And then early on, we knew, and Joe, we've talked about it regularly, the president doesn't even fall under the definition of a member of the intelligence community for the purposes of the Inspector General, correct?
That is correct. The president is not someone covered by the Intelligence Community Act, and this was not a matter involving intelligence. This was a foreign policy, political matter. It had nothing to do with the jurisdiction of the Intelligence Community IG, Michael Atkinson. This was a setup. This was designed purposely. And remember, Atkinson worked for Mary McCord, who was one of the people who went to work for Schiff through lawfare at the Brookings Institution to do this. They're very old friends. They've worked together before. Mr. Atkinson was part of the plot.
Joe, you mentioned how his testimony is the only testimony that has not been released in the impeachment inquiry. Does the president have the ability and the power to release that testimony?
No. That testimony belongs to the House Intelligence Committee and the generic impeachment panel that they set up. Now, and Schiff has refused to release it. And apparently, some of the members of apparently all of the Republican members have never seen the transcript. So this is really dynamite stuff. I'd love to see what's in there, but that's an afterthought because I'm sure he did not commit perjury. He's probably slick enough to realize that he can't lie under oath, even to a friendly committee. So I'm sure there's some devastating stuff in there. But believe me, the president didn't need to see that to fire him. But of course, all of us would like to see it. And if the Republicans take over the committee after the next election, they'll be able to release it.
Let me go back to the issue of the DOJ IG that you mentioned, finding so many, 100% of the FISA applications that he reviewed had flaws in them, mistakes, problems before the court, which is a huge problem. Now, we were told by the New York Times when that report came out last week that this somehow mitigates the political consequences for the FBI, because it suggests that there was no targeting of Carter Page, but instead that everybody has been subject to these types of errors. So therefore, President Trump wasn't uniquely targeted. And to that you say?
BS. First of all, the New York Times does not know that. They were guessing. This is where the New York Times has ended up. They're crazy. And second of all, very interesting, the FISA court, after Michael Horowitz issued this scathing interim report, the FISA court said to the FBI, I want to know the names of every target in those items that Mr. Horowitz identified. Who were the people you were targeting? And you know why the court did that? Because the court suspects that they're all political figures or people connected to political figures, and that the FISAs were done for the purpose of targeting, so that they could get political information, unmask the people, and then leak the information. This is a fascinating development that has gone unreported. It has been reported that the court has demanded from the FBI the names of all the targets on the FISA applications that Horowitz found wanting. Why did the court do that? Because the court suspects that once it sees the names of the people who were being surveilled, it will be able to conclude that they were all political targets, which we all know has been going on since almost the beginning of the Obama administration.
Wow, that would be huge. Joe, when it comes to these, all these people we hear about, all these things that we're hearing about, Eric Schiermella and Atkinson and all these people being fired and their names being floated, if the Republicans take over the House, are we going to start to see some action on these people? Is that what's going to happen, or is it going to be, disappointment as usual?
Oh, I think you'll see lots of action, but I think something that's even more interesting than that, Mary, is that last week, while all this is going on, and this all got lost, understandably, because of coronavirus, the Durham investigation, it is now confirmed, is targeting John Brennan. Brennan is, in fact, the target of the Durham investigation. A number of people from the intelligence community who were interviewed or went before the grand jury with Durham have told associates that all of the questions were about Brennan, what he was doing, what was the basis for what he was doing, and they are delving deeply into the intelligence assessment that was done and ordered by President Obama, which was a fake from the beginning. This is Brennan time. This is all about Brennan. So your question is right on the money, and that targeting of the people who are responsible for everything that's gone on for almost 6 years, it's actually longer than 6 years, Durham is now targeting Brennan.
Interesting. Well, Joe, I hope you're not toying with my feelings again. Joe, thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight. Thank you. Have a great week.
Bye.